All right, ladies and gentlemen, everyone should have a notebook and ready to go. So, friendly reminder, tomorrow you do have 21 through 30, a lecture, and your map is due. Wednesday, you have a test, 27 minutes, focus and pieces due. Today, you just did your primary sources. I know it went amazingly well. I just want you to know that each primary is worth 5 points. So, the front, you can get 5 points. On the back, you can get 5 points for a total of 10 points, which is how you get to the 10. So, keep that in mind. I will have them scored today. I know during your period, because your first period, I just sit here and play on my phone and count down to you, which annoys the shit out of Katie. But in all my other classes, I'm sitting here like sweating it out, trying to grade them as fast and as effectively and as, of course, correctly as possible. So they will be graded by today. So tomorrow morning, you could come in here and check your scores. I don't know. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to be online, but they will be scored by the end of today. So with that being said, that's how your primaries are being scored. So it's out of 10 points, 5 for the front, 5 for the back. So there's hopefully no confusion. All right, you don't have any whiteboards, but on Friday we were talking about imperialism. We were talking about how European countries are coming over and taking over. Who can tell me where we left off first period with a hand? Emma. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so the Sepoy Rebellion. Who can raise your hand and tell me what's a Sepoy? We can't discuss Sepoy Rebellion until we know what a Sepoy is. Daniel. Yeah, absolutely. So it's an Indian dude, okay, fighting in a British uniform. Why would the British hire Indians in India? Why? What do you got from me, Maggie? Yeah, for sure. If China takes over us today, would we want a Chinese guy telling us what to do, or would we like an American guy telling us what to do? We'd feel more comfortable with an American telling us what to do, and that's what the Sepoys. So, the Sepoys are Indians in British uniforms, okay? They are going to get pissed off. Why do they get pissed off? Sterling?
Because they were using like the grease of
beef and pork. And who can raise your hand and tell me why that would be a big problem in India? Evelyn, why is that a big problem?
It's a problem for Hindus and Muslims.
There you go. And what's the 2 most popular religions in India?
Hindus and Muslims.
Yeah, somehow religion came up this weekend, and we're crazy. Did you know the 2 most popular religions in India are Islam and Hinduism? I was like, yeah. He's like, really? It's like, literally, that's all I teach, like, for, like, a third of the year. And he's like, well, I was like, well, do you know what the 3rd most popular religion is? And he's like, there's a 3rd one? I was like, it blends the 2. You know what it is? And he's like, there's a religion that blends Islam and Hinduism? I was like, yeah, it's the 3rd largest religion in the world, McCray. And he's like, that doesn't exist. Okay. It's called Sikhism. Google it. He didn't Google it. My husband. He thought he was really smart because he knows a Hindu guy who's getting married. And so he was like, yeah, he's from India, but he's not Muslim. I was like, okay, so he's Hindu? And he's like, maybe. I was like, okay. And this is how it spiraled this whole thing. And he was just like, this is a little bit off track. Just letting you know my husband's a moron. Alright, so the reason why it's important. So we got to the Sepoys. We know that they're cranky over, and they should be cranky because it's incredibly disrespectful, of course, about the beef or the pork that is on the guns. We know that they rebel. The biggest outcome that comes out of this is the first anti-British sentiment. This is the first anti-British sentiment. This will be built upon, okay, other things are going to happen, and eventually this will be the call to get rid of the British. Brayden, please don't copy someone else's. Here we go. So, you need to know that this will later lead to British, the Indian independence in 1947. If you want to write that down, that will be probably helpful later. It will eventually lead to British independence in 1947. Is this going to be the only reason? No, the British are going to do lots of other shitty things, but this is the start of where the Indians are like, you know what, we're done with this. Okay, so that's why it's a big deal. All right, skip a space. No, don't skip a space, but we're done with Savoys. What?
What year was it?
1947 is when India gains its independence. Same year as Israel's creation. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so post-Sepoy Rebellion is going to lead to British independence and eventually lead to the British removal. It is also going to mean that the British take over complete and direct control over India. You need to have that language, complete and direct control of India. So, are they playing anymore in India? No. Are they just sneaking around anymore? No, they're doing a full-on takeover of India. Okay? So, they create a direct rule of India. Okay, so there are a couple good things the British do. So pros to British India. Alright, pros to British India. Next to pros of British India, you're going to write this in quotes. The sugared knife of British imperialism. Very famous quote. The sugared knife, British imperialism. What do you think that means? It's called the sugared knife. I kind of already told you. Sam, what do you think it means? Sugared knife. Man, if I said I'm going to stab with a sugared knife. You're still getting stabbed, Sam, so that sucks. What do you got, Emma?
It's like positives are like
Yeah, there's both positives and negatives. You're still getting stabbed, but there's a little sugar to it. Still getting stabbed. That sucks. But there's some kindness, there's some good thing, there's some benefit. So, couple things you need to know. The British are going to reorganize their crops and lead to greater greater production of crops. The British are going to reorganize their entire farming structure, which will make them more productive, which makes India more rich. There's more money to it. Okay? So, the major crops that they are really going to focus on is going to be tea, coffee, opium, and sugar. Not sugar. Sugar is grown in India. Cotton. I meant cotton. So, tea, coffee, opium, and cotton are the major crops. Okay? You need to know they are going to invest in Indian infrastructure. That's a huge pro. They are going to be doing major improvements on the infrastructure. They're building bridges. You need to know this. Bridges. Electrical grids. Highway systems. Grids. They're putting down electricity, so now there's electricity. Okay. Trains. And better waterway systems. Irrigation systems. Highway systems, irrigation systems. Okay. Downside. Cons. Okay. You need to know they destroy Indian culture. Destroy Indian culture. Systematic racism, discrimination, cultural suppression. They also cause infighting between sects, like as in like S-E-C-T-S, like sects of religion, jatis, so they're getting infighting in between the different jatis, and religious backgrounds. So are they exploiting everything in India? Oh yeah. They are exploiting every single aspect of India. And so, the British are going to cause a growth of racism, in India that's going to become incredibly stagnant and incredibly destructive. Alright, that's it for India. I hope you enjoyed it. Sugar knife of India is a big deal. The British are going to do a lot of really great things for India. They're going to modernize it. They're going to allow it to have reach its economic potential. But who's getting all the money? Who's getting some? India. But who's getting most of it? The British. So they're going to benefit. All right, imperialism in Central Asia. Let's do it. That's your next heading. Okay, you need to know that the British, the French, and the Russians are competing for control in Central Asia to the Middle East. What has started to become more important in the world that's found in Central Asia, aka Middle East? Oil. Yes, oil is there. They're starting to figure out that this is important. You know, there's a little bit there, but guess what? There's a. They don't know that yet until World War I, but they know there's a little bit there. So people are like, okay, really, senior. So you need to know the French are going to drop out after Napoleon. Okay, after Napoleon, the French kind of, you know, crawl up into a wall and kind of hide their head in shame, which makes a lot of sense. Do we agree? There's a lot going on. Okay, so. Then we have the Great Game, which means the only two countries competing now for the control of the Central Asia are the British and the Russians. You need to know that. It's called the Great Game. They're fighting over Afghanistan. So the Great Game is between the British and the Russians, and they're fighting over Afghanistan. Okay? A big star. This is super important. This threatens worldwide peace because of competition due to imperialism. So, it's called the Great Game. It's between the Russians and the British. And if the Russians and the British go to war, guess what's going to happen? The whole world is going to go to war because everyone's going to get in on it. Does that make sense? So, everyone is watching, okay? So, what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen, is they're literally sabotaging each other. You don't have to write this down. They're literally sabotaging each other and going back and forth tit for tat, okay? The Russians, keep in mind, do the Russians like the British or hate the British? Hate the British. Why? Who can raise your hand and tell me why the Russians hate the British so damn much? Come on, people. We got chin. Crimean War. They want to show them that they can beat them, right? So, eventually, the Russians back down. Okay, you need to know this. The Russians eventually back down because of the Russian Revolution of 1917. Okay, so the Russians eventually back down, and that's why it never happens. It's called the Great Game because they're like sabotaging each other. It's like tit for tat. Like right now with Iran, right? We're going back and forth. They send a missile, we send a missile. They send a bomb, we send a bomb. They attacked our embassy last week. We blew up a naval base. Not naval. We blew up an army base. Yeah. We're going tit for tat. Have we declared war? Have they declared war? That is what's happening here. We're going back and forth, and it's causing a lot of tension. Okay, skip space, center it. Imperialism in Southeast Asia. Okay, there's a lot of information to be found here, ladies and gentlemen. So, the first thing is you need to know the Spanish are the ones that have the Philippines. Right, Reagan?
Yeah.
Should probably write that down. Because when we have the Spanish-American War here in a minute, it's going to be a problem. So it's going to take over that. So, you need to know the Dutch are going to control the Dutch East Indies. Okay? Those are the two. And then we have the British, of course, who are also in Southeast Asia, which we have a lot of information about. You need to know that the British are going to take over Singapore. Okay, what is one of the most wealthiest cities in the world? Singapore. It's founded by the British, by the way. Okay, you need to know that. We've all seen Crazy Rich Asians, haven't we? It's one of my favorite. I don't know why, but every time it's on HBO, I have to watch it. I love it. Anyway, so Singapore. It's going to be founded by Thomas Stamford Raffles. Okay, he's the one who's going to found Singapore. It has a perfect location to monitor, tariff, and move goods through the South China Sea. Okay, it will become one of the British most important ports. You need to know that. Singapore will become one of Britain's most important cities. What's the matter, Sterling?
It says the perfect location.
For South China Sea trade, mate. Okay, so then you have the French. You need to know they control Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. You need to know this because when we have the communist revolutions, guess what countries are going to fall? Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos are going to go. So you need to know the French are going to control these territories. I'm pretty sure there's a test question on which territories, which of the following does the French not? Okay, you also need to know that the French are forcing Christianity on its people. How do you think that makes people feel? Oh my God, are you saying that people aren't thrilled to have their eyes open to the Savior Jesus? Oh my God, can you say people don't like having things forced down upon them? That's shocking. Alright, and then when we come back tomorrow, we have Africa. And ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't notice, holy moly, there's a lot in Africa. Oh, and American imperialism. We have so much to do tomorrow. So, but Asia's done. How exciting. And we had fun today with the primary source. Is it harder than that? You're gonna be so mad. You're gonna be so mad.
I'm just like,
So the next period. Dun, dun, dun. Ladies and gentlemen, should you give any of your future classes a hint of what's on the primer?
No.
Did they help you?
No.
Did they give a shit about your grade?
No.
No, so screw them and their grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can suffer just along with everyone else. Be like, oh my God, it was just so hard, I can't remember. There's no point telling them anything because you can get it. Heads up and all.
Don't worry about it.
You should just tell them it's super easy.
Don't worry about it.
Oh my God, it's like the easy.